Did he say Dan? I'm getting punchy.
Okay, let's
You have 4
start
days to
this
go.
thing.
Don't get punchy yet.
That was in the house last night. Punching.
Okay, well, we need to have some fun like that over here.
No, I don't like that kind of thing. That's not fun to me.
We tried. We just
Okay,
couldn't get
welcome
excited.
everyone to our media briefing, and those who are watching us over the internet, please send in your questions. This is Friday, the week before the last week, and we're looking forward to next Thursday night at 1 a.m. on our way home after the session's over with a balanced budget and hopefully some good policy addressed. We'll go ahead and we'll have questions from the media.
Utah Cares just passed the House floor. What is the prospect as it now moves on to the Senate?
We will probably read that bill in this afternoon. It'll go to rules. I'm assuming it would probably go to Health and Human Services Committee. That's where it should go. And they'll debate it next week, I guess, in committee. And then we'll address it on the floor if it passes out of committee.
So you will consider it though? I mean, you're not going to just leave it in rules?
No, we'll send it to Health and Human Services Committee.
Why would you even want to hear this? This is contrary to what the plan that you guys advanced.
Well, I don't know, we rarely hold bills. We do hold some bills occasionally, but it's a process.
So could you substitute Healthy Utah next week?
Could.
For that? Is that a possibility?
There's a lot of possibilities. Yeah, and one is you could pass in Help to Utah, and you could,
That's the deal.
that's a possibility.
The House is
you could substitute in Grand Compromise. So yeah, there's a lot of options on the table.
The House has already taken a clear stance on Healthy Utah, so at this point you start to look at it as, is this better than doing nothing?
That's a good question. And we haven't had a chance to caucus on it at all. We'll probably caucus on it Monday or Tuesday, and we can better give you an idea where that bill will go at that point.
Senator Shinazawa, since you just walked in and Utah Cares just passed the House, any plans to maybe try to substitute it with Healthy Utah?
Well, you're thinking way ahead, aren't you?
Well, the Democrats just tried that in the House, so just kind of basically looking at their playbook and seeing what they did twice now, and wondering if the Senate is considering the same.
Substitution of a bill is always technically possible at this stage of the game. And so we're looking seriously at doing some sort of agreement with the House of Representatives, Representative Dunnigan, and looking at the best parts of Healthy Utah and the best parts of Utah Cares, and see if we can compromise and come up with a best bill for the citizens here.
So you're more in favor of a compromise, some kind of compromise bill?
I think a compromise bill either way would be a type of amendment or substitution. I don't think our intent is to make a hostile hijack. Our intent is to work with a good representative and the House and come up with something agreeable. I think we can do it.
What, Senator, at this point, if you're not able to come to a middle ground, a question I just asked before you walked in is this a better alternative than doing nothing at all?
Those are tough questions. The one problem with, say, doing just Utah Cares is it does establish a certain policy and momentum and ignores all of the good things that Healthy Utah would bring to the table. The nice compromise would be to have Healthy Utah for the 2 years. We know the risks, we know the costs, we know the benefits, and we could use that for that defined period, and then hopefully compromise into a plan that would include all the best parts of Representative Dunnigan's plan in case there was a wind down or we needed to fall back on something as well, and would give us some ongoing momentum as well.
It seems they're pretty clear they would rather do the opposite of that, though. Are you open to that?
Well, we'd have to talk it over. I'll meet with Representative Dunnigan, House leadership, of course, Senate leadership, and those people in the executive branch.
Senator Adams?
Budget-wise, it's much easier to do it Healthy Utah and then Utah Cares, because Utah Cares has ongoing money. Healthy Utah for 2 years costs $25 million one time. We'll spend that ongoing plus for 2 years, so I think what was it, $77 million? If we went the other way around, and financially, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why would we do that financially? So anyway, we'll see how it goes.
The president speaks great wisdom. I mean, Utah Cares is really pathetic Utah. I mean, this is a sham. It costs more money. It costs the state of Utah a lot more money per person, and it covers a fraction of the number of people. Why would we do this? It is a pathetic solution. No reasonable person would sit down, look at these plans, and pick Utah Cares. It's driven from some weird ideology, because rational, reasonable, normal Utahns sitting down looking at these two plans would not pick pathetic Utah. It makes no sense at all, and I'm deeply disappointed, and I can't imagine any way that I would vote for Utah Cares. It's just bad legislation. It's bad in every way.
If I could just ask one more question.
Well, I just maybe, that's, Senator DeBacchus, that's how he feels. I think most of us over here feel like that Utah Cares is still a good program. It's better than what we have today, which is nothing. And because it will cover, a fraction of that population through regular Medicaid, through ACOs, and then PCN is, while it's definitely not great insurance, because you don't have hospital care and specialist care and those issues, but I would still, if I had nothing, yeah, I'd take PCN. I think it would at least give you some form of health care, and so I think it's a viable option. We just need to what's best for Utah and what's best for us, for the people first, and for the health of our people. That's what we need to look at first. But we also have to consider the finances of this, because we just went through a budget process. All the social service programs you'll see in EAC today got some money, but we could spend much more money on our existing health and human service programs, and our question, I guess, has to be, are those some better outcomes? So we need to look at the whole picture, our whole budget. And but it really only makes sense to me financially for us that where Healthy Utah is only $25 million in the first 2 years. Why wouldn't you do that? Take advantage of that. And Senator Shizawa mentions all the time that he sees people in the emergency rooms that are in and out of health insurance. People have health insurance, people don't have health insurance. I was in the committee meeting in the House the other night and saw person after person that said, give it to me for 2 years. That's better than not having anything at all. I understand it might go away after the 2 years, but at least give it to me for 2 years. And we'd say, well, because Utah Cares may have, I don't know, we'd know better after the 2 years, may have a better outlook for sustainability. That's what we would actually morph into after the first 2 years, and continue to have those discussions all the way along. So anyway, that's at least some thoughts that we have on it, but nothing's definite because we've got 29 senators here, all with probably a little bit different idea about things, and you've heard from a couple of us so far.
If I could just
I
ask
think the
one
one
more.
thing is looking at full Medicaid expansion is probably the ultimate way to go. Saves us money, it brings money back to the state into our economy, and it takes care of this problem long-term instead of a short-term band-aid. Trying to figure out what it's going to be like. So,
If I could just expound on that money out versus money in. The argument I keep hearing on the House side is sustainability, as you mentioned. They say no matter what happens at the Supreme Court, no matter what happens with the change of a presidency, this plan will still be able to provide the insurance for the people of Utah. What is your thought on that argument?
Well, I hope that's the case. They have to get waivers that are not granted by the federal government. And as Representative Dunning has mentioned, he's worked very hard. I applaud. You know, he's probably the brightest mind on health insurance here in the legislature, and we have deep respect for him. And he's gone and done some hard work, but he hasn't got a commitment from Washington D.C. You know, I've heard his testimony. I've heard the questions. I was in committee the other night, and so we don't even know if we can get the waivers yet. Now, the argument might be, well, we don't know if we get the waivers for Healthy Utah also, but at least I think the governor's gotten this will work, send in your waiver. I don't think that the same is true for Utah Cares.
I wanted to ask Senator Adams about SB 297.
All right.
Can you kind of just run through what it does? Because clearly there are a lot of groups who have some serious concerns about your bill.
Well, it's a great process. 296 right now is kind of wrapped up with a bow on it, in my opinion, and I think we've gone through that process. The process 297 is going through is, kind of...
Can I stop and say, I hope you're right on that?
you feel better.
Yeah, we hope it is anyway. And 297, we hope as we go through the process, is somewhat similar. It's not a lot like we dealt with in the early stages of 96, and we're trying to walk through and make sure that we maintain the same principles, fairness to all, balance. In fact, I thought it was really funny yesterday. One of the headlines in one of the local papers was 297s stops county clerks from being able to marry, and the other one was 297 forces county clerks to marry, and I put the two together. And my intern looked at him and says, which is true? And I said, they're both. And sometimes when you're in the middle, you get arrows shot at you both ways. And so what 297 does is simply try to deal with, what we've been dealt with by the court's action, that we have same-sex marriages. So we need to do that in a very respectful, very dignified, orderly way. And so what it helps to do is give process and order to it. And we've talked about it among many of us as to what the courts are typically doing right now, and that is, if you decide to marry, you just marry everyone. And that's a good thing. And we ought to not have discrimination or anyone feel differently with any type of marriage. If you decide you're not going to marry, you don't marry anyone. And this makes a little carve-out for close relative kids and those types of things, but it gives definition. But the challenge is when you go through that process in perhaps small communities, and I doubt this would happen, but I suppose you have to accommodate probably the exception, is if religious organizations can marry, and they're probably protected anyway without 296 and 297 anyway, and they can decide what they do, who they marry. But if you happen to have a group of clerks or a group of elected officials that simply said they don't want to marry anyone, you may find a hole there that doesn't allow for people to get married. So now it says, instead of being able to opt out as a county clerk or an elected official, the county clerk has to be the marrier of last resort, or at least designate someone. So there's always fairness and balance and equality as to how that process would happen. You know, it's I think it strikes that balance. It's been done elsewhere in the country, and I think it's probably reflects what statutorily, not statutorily, what the courts are doing.
But what about the accommodations? That's something that some of your clauses in terms of facilities, use of things, businesses, that's something that the ACLU they have significant problems with, as well as Equality Utah.
Yeah, I think we've got balance there. My opinion is that the accommodation portion, I don't know if they're pushing back on it, and we're working through that process right now. I think it's more on some of the language later in the bill that they actually was, we thought, crafted narrowly, and we've got some help. I've told you before, we've used attorneys from all over the nation, and as you try to determine what sections they apply to, how broadly they apply. And our thought was they applied to the 3 sections that we're dealing with. The language in there may have allowed them to apply more broadly, and so there were questions about that. But so it's, again, a discussion among the attorneys, and we've had a lot of those, haven't we? Mm-hmm. And we probably have more.
You know, if I can give perspective on this, Senator Adams, he obviously believes in the process. And that's what we do in our legislative bodies, is we take society's most complex, vexing issues, and we put them in front of our legislative bodies, and we're tasked with coming up with solutions. And so 296, no way on earth would it have happened without Senator Adams' involvement. And so he got excited about that and figured, hey, if we can take care of this, let's take care of another big one. So he's trying.
I didn't want to quite say it that way, but I think you're right.
No, I love it. I mean, he's being bold in what he's attempting to do, and what I want everyone to understand is his intentions on this are absolutely pure and even very lofty. We know that marriage is an issue. It's on people's minds, and he's trying to make sure that when someone shows up, heterosexual couple, same-sex couple, they're treated in the exact same way. There's nothing wrong with that intention. That's great.
Right.
That he's trying to once and for all solve that. He's trying to say that places, churches, their clergy, they can pick and choose who they marry. That's fine. That's First Amendment stuff. Their property doesn't have to be used for services they don't want to use them for. That's First Amendment stuff. And so, you know, this is great that what we are doing in 296, Senator Adams is attempting to do more broadly on the biggest issue of our time, which is marriage. Just try to say, let's solve this, let's put it behind us. And so, you know, I think it's pretty inaccurate how he's being portrayed on this. What is going on is we have a legislator who's jumping into the middle of it. We'll see. You know, Stuart, did you jump in the deep water that's moving too fast, or is this something that we can accomplish in the few days that are remaining? We have lots of time for discussion and amendments, and you know, I actually am going to put a vote out there that I think he crosses this finish line also in a way that everyone can respect.
What about the provisions regarding business and professional licensing? That seems rather broad according to the ACLU.
Yeah, well, we're working through those issues right now. I think part of that became, you know, how to protect the clerks that actually decide to opt out, and what you might have, you know, unsimilar to the police officer who had the problem opting out, and how do you handle that if somebody decides to opt out? And that's a sensitive issue, and you have issues that are sensitive, and the way you get to the end of those issues is you bring them out and talk about it. And that process is happening. You know, I think we did one miracle this session with this bill, hopefully, as we get it across the finish line. I'm confident we'll have another miracle. And I think that's what we're looking for.
I'm sorry, do you think that, are you planning to, I know you're planning to, of course, present to committee this afternoon, but are you planning to push forward with your bill, maybe substitute, or are you going to interim this?
I can tell you, I saw one amendment at 1:30 last night, which was not unsimilar to 268 late at night, Steve. We were out late. And I've seen another amendment in the last 15 minutes. So my guess is you'll probably see some more amendments Monday. You know, we'll have some before committee, we'll have some next week. And somebody called this sausage making, and I don't know who that was, Senator Backus, but
Senator Adams, after you had left the presentation this morning, we were talking about the two bills and how they work together and possible conflict. And one of the members of the Capitol 13 had talked about the range of emotion from the unveiling of 296 to hearing about 297. And she basically said she was so excited and joyful with 296 and then deflated with 297. Do you think is that how someone should take a look at this, and is that the intent?
I can tell you in the last month, those have been the emotions I think we've all had. You know, one moment we think we've got it put together, the next moment we don't. And I think that's not an uncommon emotion. At the end of the day, we've got five days left. I hope we have, like I said, 2 miracles happen, and those, but we can't quit working just because we're afraid of tackling issues.
Well,
We're hoping for more than 2 miracles.
yeah, I mean, let me take a shot at that. Your specific question was whether that was the intent, was to give something and then take something away. No way on earth was that the intent. I mean, you know, you look at Stuart Adams and what he has put into 296, this is sincere dedication to solving a tough societal issue, and that's exactly what he's putting into 297. So, you know, if the intent on 297 is the exact same intent on 296, which is to figure out answers to vexing issues. Now, you know, the perception, sometimes we can't control that, and but again, what I'm asking people for is patience with the process. And you know, Senator Adams is an experienced fellow up here. He's carried a lot of heavy legislation, got a lot of important stuff over the goal line, and so he's smart. He's going to receive input, and if he can go forward in a way that helps out Utah overall, that's what he's going to do, and that's what he's trying to do right now. And you know, the process pushes us to where we should be, and this is not an issue where people are indifferent. People are deeply passionate about it, and Stuart's feeling that passion from all sides, and he's listening to it and working on language, and either he'll get there or he won't.
Now, just a quick word. Stuart Adams has been a tremendous hero in this process, and if there had been a stopwatch in the midst of this negotiation that we had on 296, and somebody could have come in and gone, all right, that's it would have, everybody would have gone crazy. What's happened here is we've had to stop and put something out that was never intended as a final product. And so the social media world has looked at that and gone crazy. So before we go crazy, let's see what comes out. Let's see where we finish up, and recognize that we may not agree. You know, I don't like the bill. I wouldn't vote for it now, but it's not a final product. This guy brought us over the finish line. Let's see where we are. And frankly, even if we can't agree, it doesn't have any effect on 296. That was the way it is. So that's kind of where we are. 296 lives in its world. We're working hard on 297. Maybe we'll agree, maybe we won't. But Stuart Adams has been nothing but a hero in this whole process.
And to answer that question, I didn't say that. I've got, right now I've got an Uber bill, a water bill, a marriage bill, and probably a little bit of just trying to work through the process, and didn't quite see it the way perhaps.
Could we combine those into an Uber water gay marriage?
And so...
So we'll have an Uber gay marriage bill.
That's right, I got it. So part of the process up here.
All right, any other issues, questions? We got one from our, go ahead.
Oh, Senator Van Tassel substituted his gas tax bill yesterday.
Yes.
What's going on with that, you know?
Well, he lowered the 10
saw-
cent increase to 6 cents. And then every year on July 1st, after this July 1st, which is July 1st, 2015, so starting in 2016, it would increase for 3/4 of a cent and for 4 years, and then would cap out at 9 cents. So you have more of a gradual increase over a period of time. And the positives about that are it's fixed. It isn't a percentage that fluctuates up and down. It's very predictable. It isn't going to go, if gas prices all of a sudden go up at a high rate, it doesn't really change. It creates a very stable approach to increasing that revenue stream, which we need to for maintenance for our roads. I was with our director of UDOT this morning, and we really hadn't thought about this, or at least I hadn't thought, there was a gas tax increase in 1996 or 1997, but that went to capacity. That went to building new roads. There hasn't been an increase in revenue for maintenance of the roads since 1986 or 1987, when it was increased before then. And so this is something that's way past time to deal with, and we still, one thing that Senator Van Tassel's bill doesn't deal with is how do we deal with this growth and inflationary part of paying for our roads, because concrete's going up, steel's going up, wages are going up. All those things that are maintaining and building our roads are going up, and how are we going to maintain some kind of a increase over the years, something that doesn't go out of control, which, you know, if you tie it to the gas prices, it creates a very volatile revenue stream. It's better that we put in some kind of a growth index so that, because obviously the legislature is pretty reticent to deal with this when they really need to deal with it, and that will help relieve some of that pressure in time to come. But there's no growth component in his bill. It's just flat out, these are it. It's a cap. It's very sustainable. It's very predictable, and it won't go out of control.
Is that part of the deal with the House, or is that just going to run on its own?
Well, I don't know. Senator Adams was in a meeting this morning. We've talked a little bit. Negotiations are still going on in the House. We don't know if we'll, what we're going to do with the bill. We'll see what happens today, if it gets encircled and moved over. And so I can't tell you exactly where it's going, but at least everybody's talking, which is a good thing. And I think it's going to be very easy to create a miracle, at least in this area between the two bodies. A question from our viewer. Two
quick ones.
Okay.
One person says they think the seatbelt bill is a bad idea. What do you think the Senate's going to do about it? And the other person is Jason Williams, and he wants to know what the priority bills are starting for next week. What's important to get to as the clock ticks?
Well, good question on important bills. Obviously, we're going to get to 296. If 297 gets work done, we'll get to that. Gasoline tax. And still, there's going to be health care issues, Medicaid expansion. Those are the big items.
Do you want my list of personal bills?
Yeah.
The Uber bill, right?
No,
It's the Uber bill.
they're all right here, sitting here on this couch right here. And so a myriad of bills. Some are not near as big as that, but there are some bills that are very near and dear to a lot of people's hearts out there, and will create some controversy, and we'll deal with them in that process. Regarding the seatbelt law, I can't predict what is going to happen to that bill here in the Senate. We haven't done any polling, we haven't done any work on that as far as determining where that's going to go. I wear my seatbelt every time I get in the car, It makes sense to me that you wear your seatbelt. I'm not sure why you necessarily need to have a law to put your seatbelt on. It's pretty much common sense these days. But at least some folks feel like we need to have a law. And that's what we're debating up here, and we'll see what happens with it. So thanks for sending in those questions. All right, have a great day.
Thank you.
You have a good day, guys.
Hey,